What is up? So today I played in a chess tournament, Cinco de Mayo tournament. I got this win here over the board. I played black, but I can't get it to switch around. So let's get into this game and how I won. They go e4, I go e5, knight of 3, knight of 6. I'm playing the Petrov over the board. Playing e5 was something I was worried about at first, but I've been playing the last few tournaments I played in, and I did pretty well. Oh, and my rating, by the way, over the board is 1698. They go knight c3, I go d6, and then they go d4, I capture, they capture back, and I'll go bishop e7. This is all stuff that I've played online 100 times, so I know this variation of the Petrov, and I'm very happy they didn't play the King's Gambit. Not my strongest opening, although I did study before this game. Then move the bishop to c4, and I move my pawn to h6. Now, I actually spent a few minutes on this move. I was down, I think, 37 minutes to 32 minutes, and it's a 40-minute game, just on h6. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, because I know in this position that knight to c6 is probably the best move, but I just don't feel I was like over the board. I don't feel comfortable playing it, and to be quite honest, in one of the last tournaments I played in, I played knight c6, and it wasn't exactly the same opening, but it was a Petrov, which I did miss a move, but I still played knight c6 eventually, and the double pawn ended up losing me the game, or obviously for other reasons, but ended up being quite a weakness. So I didn't want to do that again, so I went h6, just trying to stop bishop g5. I also considered bishop g4. The reason I didn't play it was just, I was like, if they are an aggressive player, they go f3, I can drop back, and they go g4, and that's just kind of uncomfortable to start the game, so I just went h6. Although it is an inaccuracy, I don't necessarily regret it because I felt comfortable playing this, and it wasn't like a game-changing move. They castle, I castle, then they go h3. Similar thought, they also see bishop g4, so I knew that it was a decent move, but as they played f3, g4, that was a lot of defense I did not really want to play in this game. I bring my knight to d7. Another decision I took a while to make. Again, because of knight to c6, I really considered it, and then going knight b d7, I allow knight to f5, which they do play, but ultimately I thought that knight to e5 was too good, and I didn't want to move my bishop, because I also considered fianchettoing my bishop on b7, but I was like, if I get on that diagonal, I can do nothing on the king side, and that was not something I was okay with. And also, their bishop is staring at my king, so I want to get my bishop on e6, but if I do that, right now, I lose a pawn, so I want to go knight to e5 first, and then go bishop e6, but by doing that, they go knight to f5, which is a good move. However, I go knight to e5 immediately, attacking the knight, ready to trade it off, and they decide to trade it off themselves, which is a good move. I get it back, and then they go bishop b3. After bishop b3, I go bishop e6, as I said. I was planning on doing this the whole time, just so I could control this diagonal. They go f4, and I go knight to c6. Now, the best move here, I believe, is knight to d7. The reason I did not do this was just because I didn't like the potential of f5. Although, it's pretty easy to get out of. And I sort of figured that in the game, but it was like, I have to get out of something, if that makes sense, versus if I go c6, bishop to d7 is so natural, so I decided to go c6 instead. They go knight to d5, which is what I thought they would do, just because it felt offensive. Attacking the queen, making me trade the bishop, because I kind of have to trade. I trade there is the best move. No, I can't. The reason, well, you can't take with the knight just because they take back with the pawn, and then that's a skewer. But if I do just retreat my queen, it's just really passive in my opinion. And then they capture the knight with check. I take back with the queen, and they can take with the bishop, or they can drop their queen to h5. It just did not feel like a great decision to leave that knight there, so I decided to take it, which was the best move, and take back with the pawn. Now here I make a mistake. Play knight to b4, looking for an attack. I should have went knight to a4, and it's kind of funny because in my head, before I made this move, I was like, okay, they go here, I'm going to go knight to a5. But when it came down to it, knight to b4 felt too good, in my opinion, although obviously a mistake. It felt too good to get two knights attacking that pawn, but I should have went knight to a5, and I saw it too, and I told myself to go there so I can trade the bishops off. But something just made me want to be on the attacking side. It was a mistake, but I still went in the game, because of the mistake. They go rook to e1, queen goes to d7, bishop to d2, and I capture this pawn. Now it says equal, but neither of us have an evaluation bar when we're playing this game. So I thought I was winning, and by the look on his face when he did this, he thought I was winning, but it was a draw. They go queen to f3, and now I go c6. Not the best way to defend the knight, but my thought process here was one, I'm going to want to push these pawns eventually, and this protects the knight. Well, I guess I should clarify. Right now, there's a double attack on the knight, so I can't just leave it there. And I thought moving the queen would drop me into any pin, and dropping the knight back, I just didn't want to do quite yet, although I do it shortly. So I go c6, although the best was to protect with the queen. Again, something that the computer sees that I didn't. I didn't like the look of a pin, because if I move my knight, I'm not a huge fan of that. But obviously the computer is more accurate than me, and it was defendable. I did not see that as a human, so I went c6. They go g4, which is actually what I thought they would do. They actually do a few moves I kind of predicted they would do, so I was pretty prepared and not worried at all. Go g4, pretty simple, knight to e7. This is necessary just because they're going to make me move my knight on f6. So right now, the knight on f6 is the only thing protecting me from losing the pawn. So if they say I went like a6 and they go g5, I have to move my knight out the way. Then they take on d5, I take my pawn, and they attack back with a queen, and I lose my one pawn advantage. And the trade-off they got for me giving one pawn advantage is they are on the attacking side, although, albeit not much of an attack, but it is an attack. So if they'll be equal material and still have the attacking chance. So it just doesn't make sense for me to allow that. So I drop back to e7, and then also with them just attacking the king side, getting another piece that's protecting squares around my king, that g6 square and that f5 square now protected. Now here they go g5, take, and I go knight to h7. Now the best move was not knight to h7, it was knight to e8. And honestly, I would never play this. It just feels too passive, disconnects my rooks. Although it is the best move, I would have never played it. There are some moves in this game that I saw and decided not to play. This is not one I even considered. It was knight to h7 the whole time. Then they take the knight, which I actually predicted they would do, just because it's the only thing that has any semblance of an attack. So right here, there's just nothing to do. Like, if even pushing that h pawn, it would just stop eventually. So I kind of figured they'd take the knight, but I take this. They go g6. Now here I have to think for a while. Like, I knew that I was winning, but I had to figure out how to not lose the game. So my first thought was queen to f6, but I quickly realized, or not quickly, I realized that I can't let them take the knight on h7. Now obviously, I knew that from the start. I didn't want to let them take the knight on h7, but my thought process was, if I take the pawn, I have a rook and two pawns for two bishops, which isn't the worst thing, but it isn't the best thing either. So I wanted to not do that, and knight to f6 is the only move. So it's kind of a process of elimination once I realized I don't want them to take the knight. The reason I want them to take the knight eventually at first is because I'm going to lose this pawn on f7. But knight to f6 is what I found, which is the best move. The reason I go here is because they can't go queen to h5, and there is no attack. If you take the pawn, the problem here is that checkmate is in two moves and not one. Like, setting up checkmate takes 2 or 3 moves. They first have to remove my knight, and they second have to get their queen on the h-file. So they have to do a move to attack the knight, take the knight, get the queen on h5, and then checkmate me. So that's, 4 moves, and it's too slow. And that's why I figured knight f6 works, even though I lose that pawn. Since they sacrificed the rook, sacrificing the rook back for a pawn and bishop doesn't matter, because I started this up a pawn. They attack my queen. I go queen to d8. Now here's a miscalculation by me. The reason I stay on this diagonal is because I saw bishop to d8, and I wanted to be able to take back with my queen still. However, I was just seeing ghosts, as it does not do anything. They take, I take, they take, I take, and they go bishop g5. Now, and I go queen a5. Now, they go queen to e3 here. I see rook to e8. I calculated it for a while. I missed one move, though. I saw rook e8, queen b3, and then I didn't see king to g6. So that is like a horrible miscalculation, honestly. But I didn't see that my king could go to g6 to avoid the check, queen capture b7. And honestly, this was a 40-minute flat game, and I had like 15 minutes left, I believe, at this point. It was not like a whole lot left. So I was thinking that if I just go to the endgame up a pawn, I know I can win that. So I should have played rook to e8, but I decided to go queen to b6. And as you see, I'm still winning the game. I'm minus 1.14. Just because for me, I know I can win up a pawn at the endgame. So, and I was not sure about the calculation. I didn't want to spend all my time calculating it. Although, albeit, again, quite a simple miss in the calculation. I decide not to go for it. And I go queen to b6, forcing a queen trade just because I know up a pawn I'm going to win. They go king to g2. I take. Rook to e8. Take back with the knight. Taking back the knight, I think, is important. Just for simplicity's sake, I think taking back with the king, yeah, just what to say. Taking back the king does work. But from my perspective, this gives some winning chances. If they take the knight, take back with the pawn, they have a pass to h pawn. Now, obviously, it is still winnable, but I want it as simple as possible, although the computer may not necessarily agree with my process in doing it. I was perfectly fine with just going up a pawn in the endgame, which, again, I'm comfortable in winning. So after I take the knight, they go king to f2. I bring the knight back up, king to f4, and I bring my king to e6, stopping king to f5. They go h4, which I immediately knew was a mistake, and here's when I knew I won. Oh, I thought I won a while ago, but knight to d5 is when I was like, yeah, this is over. King goes over, and then knight to b4. King goes to h5. Now, I miss a move here. I mean, nothing really serious. It's winning anyways. I go king to f7 instead of king to f5. I just didn't see king to f5. We were both lower on time. I think he was already under 5 minutes, and I was around 7. So I just knew I couldn't allow king to g5, king to g6, excuse me. So I didn't really care how I did it. I just went king to f7, which is something I should work on. Honestly, I should be as precise as possible. But sometimes when you're winning, it's just get to the win. And I knew this does the go, and I was right as I'm still winning, albeit not as much. They dropped the bishop back to d2. Now here I was a little bit confused why they didn't go for a trap. I would have went c3, knight captures a2, and then hope I mess up, although I could just push my b pawn and eventually get out. But I think that I would have pushed c3, because taking c2, that's a complete pass pawn. That's too much to stop, and this is over. They go king to g5. I bring my knight back to the center of the board. King to f4. Knight goes back for a check. And then I go g6, planning for knight to g7. I go a3 first, although b6 was a6 first. b6 was more accurate, and I probably would have done it given more time, but I was lower on time. They go bishop d2. I bring my knight back to g7, and the bishop b4 is my last notated move. If you haven't played an over the board tournament, once you both get below 5 minutes, or when you're below 5 minutes, you can stop notating, and I got below 5 minutes at this point, so I stopped notation. And the moves that follow, eventually their king gets to g5, and their bishop gets to c5, and I go knight to e6 check, which is a fork, and he resigned at that point. But yeah, it was a nice little win I got over the board. I was 1683 going to the tournament, and now I'm 1698, and I won, although it was not. I only played one game, but I still got first place due to some bias. But yeah, thank you guys for watching my first tournament video. Trying to get to 1700 next tournament. I have one tomorrow, or I guess depending when this video comes out, I would have already played it. But yeah, thanks for watching and have a great day.